Hi everyone, and welcome back to Amity Bloom. My name is Nazi, and today is finally the reveal of our provision boxes. There's going to be 3 different boxes, one that's more of a country cottage theme, another one that's more French themed, and the last one, which is my personal favorite, it's more like the luxurious one that has the little crystals. That one's more of a subdued provincial French one, and I cannot wait for you guys to see that. I will be putting timestamps right here so that you know exactly when the boxes will appear, depending on the style and the color palette that you enjoy. So to start off our provision boxes, this is the Country Cottage one. Now I've took out the little bundle out of its box because the box just causes unnecessary shadow. But it's a really lovely box that has like a little heart closure. It's adorable. So this is your fabric bundle. Here are your little spools, and then here is your paper. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on in your provision boxes. The whole idea with the provision boxes is putting together everything that I love and that I know you guys love: fabrics, antique wallpapers, vintage papers. Provisions back then were your staples, your milk, bread, butter, your eggs, things that you always needed. There was a sweet lady in the comments that she's actually an archaeologist, and she said that she loves little fragments of things. She said that there's something very mesmerizing about little fragments of things, and that's exactly what I want the provision boxes to be. You get so many different little fragments of pieces, you get longer pieces, but everything goes together color-wise, and they all tell a story. And the story, you can always alter it to make your own journal. My idea with this is that you have all of your provisions, your fabrics, your papers that you need to decorate or create a journal using our provision boxes. And if you're a journaler, if you're a journal maker, all of these provision boxes will be really lovely for you. So starting off with the Country Cottage, these are the little spools that you saw me creating in the provision diaries. There are 2 little spools. You have some dyed cotton that we have hand dyed, and then some beautiful woven floral trim. And then our little peg girls. You guys said that these were called worry dolls, I believe, but they don't make me worried. They actually make me really happy. So I'm going to call them my little happy girls. But you have trims and cotton pieces to create ruffles or to create closures for your journal. And then starting into the little bundle, you have little heart confettis that I punched out from antique wallpaper and some of my favorite little scrapbook papers. And that comes in all of the boxes, your little heart confetti. This one comes with a ledger pocket, and you have a really beautiful floral tag in there. Of course, you have some buttons, and these are some designed button cards that I made. And I love this personalized effect. You can keep it like this, or you can just cut off the little threads and use these buttons for decoration. And for the fabrics for this one, you have a beautiful little woven flower. You can see all of the threads that they use to weave it. This one's actually really, really old, but it is so lovely. It's actually French, but I thought it went well with the country, little cottage and country florals. You have these lovely little laces and linens. Some of them you get little pieces like this, little fragment pieces, because they're pretty old and I don't have that much of them. But with other fabrics, I give you probably about 1/4 of a yard or more because I had more quantities of those. So it's a nice little assortment and little bundle. This one, let me show you this one. It's so pretty. This is from a vintage quilt. And what I loved about this one is that it's double-sided. So you have a white base with pink flowers and then a pink base with white flowers. With this, if you just fold it in half, you can create the loveliest little needle book with it. You can create little pockets and put your little things and trimmings and stuff that you'd like to include in a journal. So I love little pieces like that that already are pretty much made for you, and you can create little pockets with these linens and then create pages. This one is so pretty too. You can add fabric pages into your little book as well. So if you like the look of country florals, I think this is the one that you're going to really, really gravitate towards. Or if you like bright, cheerful colors. And here's where we have that lovely piece of lace. It kind of overlaps everything. And it starts with the second layer. So this is from an antique quilt. You can see everything is hand sewn. And what I loved about this, it looks like a little path, like if you can walk. And it went perfectly with their little girl because it's like she's walking down a little path. That's just so cute to me. So you can make textile collages with this. Now this fabric is the one that I think it's about a 1/4 yard. I'm going to open it. You can see how large this floral piece is, but you get this and it's folded. So you get, I think it's a 1/4 yard or maybe 1/2 yard of fabric. So I was able to provide lots and lots of fabric for this one. This can create so many lovely journals. Imagine that for the cover of a journal. So you have that gorgeous little piece of fabric, and then you have some linens. This one also is one of my favorites. I used this to create my deconstructed journal pages, and you get a nice little piece of that as well. When you open it up, you have a good amount. So you'll notice that with the more antique fabrics, I wasn't able to provide 1/2 yard's worth of quantity, but with these fabrics that are more vintage, not too old, I was able to purchase more quantities and to share more with you guys. This is probably my favorite lace because it's just so eclectic. This lace, I call it my little button lace because it looks like little buttons. Imagine taking your little buttons and putting them inside. This is just the cutest, most darling little thing, and I love that I was able to find this lace because it mimicked the look of buttons. And then this embroidered with metallic embroidery. This one is a gem, probably my favorite one in the whole entire pack. This is really, really antique. It feels like a flower linen sack, or kind of like a feed sack material, but it feels more like a flower bag, like those really old ones. I don't have that much, but I was able to give you guys a nice little portion so you can create perhaps like a traveler's notebook cover with it, or 2 little mini journals. But when you look at this fabric, it is incredible, you guys. Like, you can also see the design on the back a little bit. The texture on this is incredible, and it's honestly, in my opinion, the star of the show when it comes to this little country cottage box. So if you are more into the theme of like quilts and really bright and lovely flowers, and you like that feed sack type of quality, then this box is definitely for you. The other boxes are more on the French side. I love this one. This one reminds me of like a little grandmother's box of fabrics and trimmings. Like, that's how I can describe this one. So these are the little fabrics that you get, or your little fabric bundle with your spools and your little button card. And now for the papers. Now, all of the provision boxes, you have your fabrics, you have a little bit of ephemera buttons, trims, and you also have some paper. Now, the paper for this one, I will be pulling this out so that you can see, looks just like your paper bloom packs, and you get vintage and antique wallpaper in here. Imagine cutting these out separately and putting them on your journal. This one has so much texture to it, and it goes with the country cottage theme really well. This is some Italian floral paper. Here is some piano paper. Of course, always have to share some of that. This is some of my favorite vintage wallpaper. I actually used this to create a bullet journal, and lots of you ladies have been messaging me about this wallpaper, so I really hope that you guys can pick this one up. Some ledgers, some really lovely pattern papers, music paper. I believe, yeah, this one you get a folded piece. So it's a nice assortment of antique and vintage papers. And then you also get little scrap pieces. So there's always going to be some French ephemera because I love it so much, and I know you guys really love it as well. So this one is the Country Cottage little paper pack. This is the entire little collection for the Country Cottage provision box. And now it's time to take a look at the French one. Alright, you guys, so this is the French one. You'll notice it's pretty much the same construction or method. So you have your little papers, your fabrics, your trims, except this one you'll notice has a little bit more. It's kind of like a little tier system, and this is the second one. So this one you have your little button cards. The buttons are so precious, and it follows the color palette. You have your little spools of trim here, and you get a really good amount of trim. I believe they're about 14 inches long or 16 inches long. This is from a French woven cotton, and we cut it into little strips so that you can use it as ruffles or as a closure. You also have this tiny little bobbin with some metallic embroidered trim and some lace. So everything kind of coordinates together really well if you want to use those for ruffles and tabs or to add little cotton pieces to your tags. You have your heart confetti, which is one of my favorites. They're so cute. They're little scalloped hearts. So you always have your little confetti, kind of like you're getting a really nice Happy Mail package. And this is a little bundle of happiness that I made. You basically get without, oh, actually I can take this out with no problem. Yeah. Here is an embossed, a beautiful embossed envelope. I hope you guys can see that. It's kind of sunny but yet still kind of cloudy today, so I hope it's picking up really well. But if you purchase this French one, you'll be able to see that lovely texture. But it is embossed, a beautiful embossed envelope, and it is more of a cream color, as I love cream colored envelopes. And then all of them come with an antique postcard. Now the back of them might not match with the provision box, I will be honest. It's very difficult to get exact postcards, especially if they're antique, that go with the color palette. But I love them for the back. You can always cover them up with antique paper or even fabric. But I just love the script of them. And then that goes into this little belly band that I made. Beautiful vintage paper that you can use to journal on. It's really lovely and it looks very French and elegant. And then a little floating pocket with this gorgeous paper, you guys. It has a very thick feel to it. It's some gorgeous paper, and I created a little tag out of it and used some trim that I had left over, and it just goes into the little pocket. And then that goes into another little belly band. So it's a belly band within a belly band. And this one is just some really pretty Italian paper. And it also is held by masking tape, so you can still use it. I want to make sure that even the packaging you can use. As a journaler, I know how we love to treasure every little piece that we get, and so I want to make sure that you can still use this in your journaling. So now moving on to the little bundle. Let me move our papers over here. Moving on to the fabric bundle, you'll notice this one comes with a gorgeous little, it kind of looks like a flower. It's a little doily, and it is handmade. And you'll notice I was cutting these in the provision boxes. I just cut around them to make them individual. You also get this really lovely woven French border trim that is stunning. This on tabs would be to die for. This would be so pretty on tabs if you can just cut a little piece and make it into a little tab. This fabric is my most favorite fabric from this pack. It is heavenly. It is divine. It's really, really old. I only had a little bit of it, so I wish I could have given you guys like half a yard, but I think I only had about half a yard of this fabric. But I was able to give everyone a nice little piece that you can create like mini journals. Imagine this, you guys. I'm getting so excited just thinking about it. Imagine making a journal that is this big, but you can decorate it with some trim, or you can add some of this lace on the spine. Like, look at how gorgeous that little journal would look like. So I really want you guys to really love these little provision boxes and bundles. You'll notice with this one, the colors are very French, typical to the colors that I like to use. I associate reds and blues with that French theme. And I incorporated a little bit of mint this time. Of course, gorgeous laces. The French are amazing for their laces and their linens. And this is some French napkin that was really lovely. I got from my antique store, and it's the perfect sage French green that I love. Some more laces. Really, really lovely little pieces to use. This one has incredible texture to it as well. They're just so pretty. You have some lovely green in here, and then this is when the second part of the bundle starts. I like to separate them with a little piece of lace, as I think it's really lovely, and this one is actually handmade antique lace that's included in this little pack. Look at this one, you guys. This one's kind of like a feed sack material. It is stunning. And then we're moving on to the pieces of fabric that I was able to give you guys a little bit more quantity with. This one I used in my deconstructed journal pages. You can create little postage stamps with these flowers, or the inside lining of a journal cover. This is some really nice ticking fabric and material. There's some more cottons, linens, and then that beautiful antique handmade lace here in the back, and it kind of wraps around everything, which I really, really like. It's like getting a nice little package in the mail already wrapped for you, kind of like they wrapped your meats and your cheeses, like if you went to the market. But instead of food, this is your fabric. So that is your little fabric bundle. And now it's time to take a look at the papers. These are the papers that are included, same construction as the other antique papers, piano paper, beautiful antique wallpapers. This is my all-time favorite. Can you imagine creating little tags or the inside lining to this fabric? Making a journal cover like this and even using your little doily on the side of it. And filling it up with some pages from your wallpaper or using it as tags. I love the colors of this kit, and this is actually my mother's favorite. She loves the blues and the reds together. And she even managed to get some papers and some fabrics because she wants to make a Christmas journal to document our Christmases, and I think that's a wonderful idea. We are going to be coming out with some Christmas/holiday. We are going to be coming out with some holiday packs as well and some journals, but those will be coming probably the second week of December. But if you definitely love this color palette, this is lovely for that French aesthetic, but also for Christmas, as the reds and the blues go really well together. What I love about this pack is the vintage ephemera. This is some really lovely old typewriter paper from 1964. This is lovely handmade paper, and I love the floral design on there. And then some French receipt, pieces of other wallpapers, and a really nice handmade Indian paper with some metallic shine to it. So this is your little paper pack for the French one. I really hope you guys love that. And this is the French fabric, little spools, and ephemera. You'll notice this one is definitely bigger than the Country Cottage one. I am so excited to move on to the final provision box, which is the more sage French subdued color palette. I couldn't stop myself, you guys. I just wanted to keep adding more and more because this was a new color palette for me. These were new colors that I never worked with before for creating a little provision pack with the yellows, the sage greens, and the blues, which you know I'm really enjoying right now. I wanted it to look as authentic as possible to those traditional French colors. So if you love a cool tone vintage color palette with little hints of pink and yellow, then this one will melt your heart just like it did with mine. Just like with the other packs, you get your papers, your fabrics, your trims, and then this one comes with a pack of ephemera, some little jars of happiness, of treasures that my sister actually put together, and then a little baggie of some journal charms and some little goodies as well. So I'm going to start off with what I personally think is the cutest little thing, which is our little spools. They are all stamped on one side with Amity Bloom provisions. I love this little extra bit of personalization. Just with our button cards, it says Amity Bloom, and with the little pieces at the top, it says Amity Bloom. I created a custom stamp that fit on these little spools so that you can have that little extra bit of personalization to it, and I wanted to mimic traditional vintage and antique spools. So you get 4 different spools, but on each spool there's 2 trims. And what I love about the trims is that they're hand-dyed cotton, they are some beautiful fabrics, and they also have 100% silk in them. There's 2 of them that are covered up. This one has 100% silk and this one as well. And then I like to add the laces on top just to give that little bit of added contrast to them. So this one has blue florals on them and then green silk. This one has a minty silk. This is a pink silk and then this beautiful lace. And then this one is a really beautiful French cotton and it has some lace on top as well. So when you have these in your hands, I know you're going to absolutely love them. I just want to keep them on my desk because they look so pretty. And let me know in the comments below if you guys really like our little spools. I was thinking of making some cute little boxes where we only provide little spools for you guys of different trims and color palettes. So let me know if you guys would really like that, as I love seeing these in my little studio. So moving on to the pack, you also get a little mini spool with some more of that French cotton. This little spool might look familiar because I used that fabric to create this little strip in our envelope pocketbooks. This lace is also included in this pack, and then this beautiful wallpaper is also included in this provision box as well. So let me move my little heart confettis to the side. I'm going to leave the ephemera pack for the end as I want to show you these beautiful fabrics. Here's your lovely little button card with some antique and vintage buttons from Amity Bloom, and you can just keep this as is or trim it on the back to use the buttons. And the fabrics, these fabrics melt my heart. They are absolutely beautiful. This one in particular, it has the loveliest texture, design, and color palette. You'll notice a lot of these are the same types that we use, linens and laces. Some of them are embroidered. Lots of the linens and laces are embroidered. You also get some nice cottons to layer with your laces. This one is really nice. It has an incredible texture to it. This one reminds me of like cathedral windows because it's see-through. Imagine layering this on top of this kind of grayish blue fabric. All of them also come with some antique lace that is handmade. Let me move this, as we created the little bundle so that there's like 3 layers that you can pull apart and look at each. Imagine this as a journal cover and then decorating it with some of the trim that's on your little spools. Of course, I needed to include some hints of pink to match with the spools. It's primarily a blue and green color palette, but I wanted to add some hints of pink in there. This one is stunning as well with that French blue. The floral fabric that you guys have seen me use in the hinged pocket. This is really lovely. This is more of a specialty fabric. It has a really nice sheen to it, and it is metallic embroidered. This lace is absolutely beautiful. It's like little bows. Oh my goodness, you guys, this one. Let me move the second layer. See, we're working with layers here. And this fabric actually wraps around the back, so it's a really long piece of fabric that you can use the front for a journal cover, and then you can use the back to create ruffles. Opening this little piece up, you have more fabrics, more cottons, laces, and linens. Following the color palette that we love so much, these really lovely yellow rosebuds, you get a really nice piece of that fabric as well. Some linens, and then let me fold this over. Looking at the final layer to our provision box. This is that incredible Italian woven fabric that I shared in the provision diaries. You get a really nice piece of this. You'll notice it's folded in half. This gives the perfect texture to a journal. It feels incredible. Like I want to sleep on this. It's so luscious. Adding this to the cover of a journal would make it look absolutely beautiful. Imagine taking, just as some ideas, as I love playing around with my fabrics, imagine taking this and putting it on the cover of your journal, or perhaps putting this on the spine and making a little mini book, and then adding your little trims to create the closure. This would be such a beautiful and darling little journal, and that's what I think I'm going to make with the leftover fabrics. Really beautiful little journals that serve as heirlooms and treasures. This one is my aunt's favorite fabric. She actually helped us put together little provision boxes, and this was one of her favorite fabrics, and she actually was able to save a little piece for herself to create her own journal. So these are your beautiful fabrics and your trims. So along with your provision box, you also get some journal charms and some little goodies. You get some really lovely little cabochons and some little florals. You can glue these on paper clips and they make lovely little paper clips, or you can just use them to decorate the top of your journal. This one actually is antique, this little cabochon, and these are little pieces that you can use to decorate your little journal, but I just thought those are so cute to add. And then of course you also get some journal charms. Just like with our winter crystal pack last year, we created some journal charms along with the fabrics, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And the great part is that this actually slips off, so you can still use this tag and use it in your journal, reuse the vintage book page, and also your trims that you have. Your charms are made from glass beads. They sparkle so heavenly, especially if you saw my provision diaries. I was making these little tags, and they are connected on paper clips, so you can place them wherever you want in your journal. And now for the ephemera pack. It is wrapped up just like this. I wanted it to look like a really lovely little package. When you open up your little package, you get some really lovely millinery flowers that you can reuse in your journal or just have around for decoration, especially if you want to use this little provision box to create happy mail. And then you get some leftover trim. This will be different. I used the leftover fabrics that were scraps to create little trims to tie around your package. Your ephemera comes protected in this tissue paper, and the tissue paper mimics antique book pages, which I really love. And of course I used washi tape and masking tape so that you can easily remove it and reuse your tissue paper if you want to in your journal. Oh, this is so cute! Okay, you guys, let me put your little tissue paper here at the bottom. In the pack, you get a handmade envelope, and you can use the sticky side. You can send this in Happy Mail, but when you look at it, it's made out of handmade paper. Really, really lovely. And then you also get an antique postcard. The back, of course, might not match the color palette, but the front is heavenly, and you can decorate the back with your antique wallpapers or fabric from the kit. You also get a napkin. Now, I love using napkins for decoupaging or gluing on my journal pages because you can write on top of it. And this was such a lovely little pattern on this napkin, and I thought it went really well with the design. So I thought I'd include a little piece of that. Then you get a little floating pocket. Inside of the pocket, I made a floating pocket out of some antique wallpaper. Here is a fabric tag that I made from some really beautiful fabric, and then of course on the back you can journal. And then in this little paper pack, it's being held together by some antique ledger. You get some little note sheets, which I'm really, really excited about. Kind of like a little stationery set. So you do get some antique music paper, a little scrap piece of it. And then you get some note sheets. This one is so darling. It has a little bunny on there. And then this one has a vintage flower and a really pretty design on cream paper. So you get these little note sheets included around your little stationery mini pack. One of my favorite pieces of the entire ephemera pack are my provision tags. I have another one over here that I made as well, and I want to start creating my provision tags to also sell in my shop for those of you who want pieces of fabric and trims but you don't want a whole provision box. I think these would be lovely. Imagine this with a little spool. That would be so darling. So we are currently working on that for the holiday collection that will be coming up very soon. So I hope you guys will love those. On your provision tag, you get some beautiful embroidered French trim. When you feel this texture with the flowers, with this kind of lacework design, it's heavenly. And then your beautiful cotton lace. You have this little velvet with the closure that I made. And then on the bottom, you get the most gorgeous trim. This for ruffles would make your journal come to life. It's so elegant, so beautiful. So that's your little pack of ephemera and your provision tag. So let me put this aside, and now let's go over the final little piece, which is your antique papers. Similar to the rest that you have seen, they all come in a little baggie, except this one comes with a little bit more. I love this color palette. Let me actually divide it with the antique papers and then the wallpapers. This one is so cute if you cut it up into little squares to decorate in your journal. A really beautiful, bright, cheerful yellow with some lovely little florals. This one is so pretty, you guys. The background to this is insane. You can journal on these and they make the perfect background papers. You can create tags with them. This is some Italian paper, some piano paper, of course. That lovely little Tiffany blue with the white roses. Some of them come with the lettering on the side and some of them do not. It just depends where we end up cutting it. And then this one's probably my favorite wallpaper from the whole pack, just because I used it to create my little envelope pocketbook, so it has a special place in my heart. And you'll notice I used the lace from the provision tag, I used the fabric from our little mini spool, and then I used that floral French trim to create my postage stamp, and I used the trim that's included on your little jewelry pieces to add the closure. So I recycled everything that I had in a scrap form, and I was able to create something really beautiful. And I hope that just goes to show how much you can do with these little provision packs. This is from an antique autograph book. It's the loveliest shade of blue, and I believe we have different colors, so it's going to be cream, pink, or yellow. Some antique ledger papers, of course, some French manuscript papers, some blank ledgers, book pages, music paper, scrapbook papers that go along with the theme, some ephemera from 1924, that lovely little gray blue, Some more scrapbook papers. This is some handmade paper. It has a really nice honeycomb design. Some Italian paper. Some more receipts from 1964. This is some really nice Italian paper as well. And a French calligraphy card here on top. And then you get your little scallop hearts and scallop circles from other little papers that match the color palette. So if you fell in love with this provision box, with the other French one or with the Country Cottage one, they will all be in my shop at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Make sure you're there 10 minutes before and 10 to 15 minutes after. Please don't be waiting around hours for the release. If you're there 10 minutes before and 15 minutes after, it should be enough. For a few months now, I've been experiencing glitches when I put my items in my shop. Lots of people can't see them, and even I can't see them when they are listed. So what I like to do to combat that, so that when you're there at 6:00, the items are in the shop, or it just takes a few minutes for them to load, I like to put them 5 to 8 minutes before the estimated time, because I've noticed that that's the time that it takes to the website to render my products and to make them visible for the public. However, there was one time when I posted them 5 minutes before and they were up at that exact time. So that's why I say be there 10 minutes before and 15 minutes after in case they do take a little bit longer to show up. I will be there answering all of your questions. I answer within seconds since I'm behind the computer anyways. And I really hope that you guys can pick one of these provision boxes up. And remember, if you are unable to purchase these boxes, we will be having the second part of our release on Tuesday, where you will be getting some more wallpapers in smaller packs and some fabric bundles in smaller packs as well. So definitely don't worry if you can't pick one of these boxes up, you'll still be able to have something from the collection on Tuesday. And of course, until next time, my beautiful Amity Bloom family, thank you for sticking through with me while I showed you this mammoth collection of provision boxes. I hope that you guys loved it, got inspiration from it, the color palette, that it made you want to create something really beautiful. And of course, until next time, I hope that you guys have an incredible day full of peace and love, and I can't wait to talk to you guys very soon. Bye-bye.